The gentle hum of research equipment filled the corridors of Proxima B's main science facility. Through the transparent walls, twin suns cast their reddish glow across the laboratories where humans worked tirelessly to understand the mysteries of alien biology. Among them, Han Bin Park stood at his workstation, carefully examining specimens through a quantum microscope while his daughter Young Mai watched with wide-eyed wonder. Young Mai was different from other 8-year-old children. While they played with holopets and virtual games, she preferred spending time in her father's lab or helping at the colony's educational center. Her small hands were always busy, either holding a datapad to take notes or guiding younger children through their lessons. "Look here," Han Bin would say, pointing to the strange patterns of alien cells. Young Mai would stand on her tiptoes, pressing her nose against the display screen as her father explained each discovery. Her questions were sharp and insightful, making even seasoned researchers smile at her precociousness. The colony itself was a marvel of human achievement. Sprawling biodomes protected its 10,000 inhabitants from Proxima B's harsh environment, creating a perfect bubble of Earth-like conditions. Gardens flourished under artificial sunlight, and children played in parks designed to mimic those of their distant homeworld. Young Mi's favorite place was the educational center, where she helped teach younger children about their new home. She knew every child's name, their favorite subjects, and even their fears. When little Taeho was scared of the strange noises the biodome made at night, it was Young Mai who explained how the filters worked to keep them safe. That morning it started like any other. Young Mai was in the educational center, helping 32 children with their morning activities. She had just finished explaining why Proxima B's sky looked different from Earth's when the first tremors shook the building. The Radiant Empire's ships appeared without warning, crystalline structures that seemed to grow out of space itself. Their technology was beautiful and terrible, refracting light in ways that made them seem almost invisible until they were directly overhead. Colony sensors blared warnings as the first energy beams struck the outer shields. Han Bin rushed from his lab toward the educational center, his heart pounding with each step. But Young Mai was already moving, her young mind focused on what needed to be done. "Everyone follow me," she called out, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Remember our safety drills. Hold hands with your partner." The children, ranging from ages 4 to 7, formed lines just as they had practiced. Young Mai counted heads, making sure no one was left behind. The underground bunker was their destination, a reinforced chamber designed to withstand any natural disaster. Young Mai led the children through emergency corridors as the colony's walls shuddered under the assault. She sang songs to keep them calm, turning their fear into a game of who could sing the loudest. When they reached the bunker, Young Mai made sure every child went inside. She counted again, 32 scared faces looking up at her. The facility's AI announced that the shield generators were failing. There was time for one more person to enter before the automatic locks engage. Young Mai saw her father running down the corridor, still too far away. She looked at the children inside, then at the bunker controls. Without hesitation, she pressed the emergency seal button and stepped back. The heavy doors slid shut just as the first breach in the colony's main dome occurred. Han Bin reached the bunker seconds too late, his fists pounding against the sealed door as he watched his daughter standing on the other side. Young Miss smiled at him through the small window, her hand pressed against the glass in a final goodbye. The Radiant Empire's attack lasted less than an hour. When it was over, they left behind a damaged colony and a devastated community. In their crystalline ships, the Radiant High Command discussed the attack as merely a show of force against an insignificant species. They noted the human casualties as simple statistics, unmoved by the loss of a child who had shown more courage than their entire empire. But they had made a terrible mistake. They didn't understand that humans remember. They didn't know that a single child's sacrifice would awaken something that had been sleeping in the asteroid belt, waiting for the day it would be needed. The day that humanity would show the galaxy exactly what they were capable of when one of their children was harmed. The stars watched silently as messages raced across space toward Earth, carrying news of young May's last act of bravery. And in the depths of space, something massive began to stir. The message arrived at Earth's Central Command during the quiet hours of the morning. As the report of the Proxima B attack scrolled across screens, the room fell into a deep silence. The loss of young May Park echoed through the halls of power, transforming from a personal tragedy into something that would change the course of human history. Jae-ho Kim stood at his window in the Security Council Tower, watching the sunrise over the rebuilt cities of Earth. His hands trembled slightly as he read the report for the 10th time. After 30 years of service, the Security Council president had never imagined he would be the one to reveal humanity's greatest secret. The emergency meeting was called within hours. Representatives from every nation gathered in the Global Assembly, their faces grim as they watched the footage from Proxima B. The image of young Ms. final moments, captured by security cameras, moved even the most hardened politicians to tears. "We have watched and waited long enough," Jae-ho's voice carried across the assembly hall. "For 2 centuries, we have hidden our true strength. Today, we show the galaxy what humanity is capable of." He pressed a button, and the giant screens lit up with images that made the assembled leaders gasp. The first image showed Ceres, but not as anyone had seen it before. The dwarf planet had been transformed. Massive engines protruded from its surface, and layers of armor plating gleamed under the distant sun. What had once been a simple asteroid was now the largest warship ever created. Project Homeworld Guardian, Jae-ho continued, began after our first contact with alien life. While we smiled and traded with other species, while we appeared to be simple colonists and merchants, we were building. Every nation, every generation, contributed to this project in secret. The assembly watched in awe as more details were revealed. Engineers had hollowed out Ceres while maintaining its outer appearance. The interior had been transformed into a complex network of command centers, weapons systems, and living quarters. The ship could house millions if needed. Earth's memory, Jae-ho said softly, that is what we named her. Because she carries within her the memory of every human achievement, every battle we have fought, every child we have lost. The screen showed the ship's incredible weapons systems, designed using technology that other species had dismissed as theoretical. Across Earth, the news began to spread. In every city, town, and colony, humans gathered around screens to learn about the project their ancestors had helped build. Children who had grown up hearing stories about the mysterious construction projects in the asteroid belt finally understood their purpose. The voting began at noon. For the first time since the Global Assembly's creation, there was no debate, no opposition, no abstaining. Every single representative raised their hand in favor of deploying Earth's memory. The decision was unanimous. Humanity would no longer stand idle while its children were threatened. In orbit, observation stations tracked unusual movement in the asteroid belt. Something massive was shifting, throwing off the cloak of invisibility that had hidden it for centuries. Other species monitoring stations began sending alarmed messages as their sensors detected the impossible. A dwarf planet moving under its own power. "Send word to the Radiant Empire," Jae-ho commanded, his voice carrying the weight of humanity's resolve. "Tell them nothing. Let them see our response with their own eyes." Around him, the assembly erupted in solemn applause. In mission control, engineers who had spent their entire careers preparing for this moment began the activation sequence. Generations of technological advancement came to life as Earth's memory awakened. The massive engines hummed with power drawn from the heart of a contained star, while quantum computers processed combat strategies developed over centuries. Deep within the ship, a memorial hall had been prepared. On its walls, the names of every human lost to alien aggression were inscribed. A special place waited for young May Park's name, the child whose sacrifice had finally awakened humanity's sleeping giant. As Earth's memory broke free from its hiding place, its shadow passed over Mars, a reminder to all watching that humanity had never been the simple, peaceful species they appeared to be. They had been patient, building and preparing, waiting for the day when they would need to protect their own. The Radiant Empire was about to learn what every parent knew, that there was nothing more dangerous than a species protecting its children. Earth's memory moved through space with purpose, carrying with it humanity's message to the galaxy. Never again would the death of a human child go unanswered. The stars seemed to bend as Earth's memory moved out of its hiding place. Chief Engineer Su-Min Lee watched the readings on her console with steady eyes, her hands moving across the controls with practiced precision. Around her, the command center hummed with activity as systems that had waited centuries for this moment came to life. Antimatter core stability at 98%, she reported, her voice calm despite the historic nature of the moment. The core itself was a marvel, a contained star's worth of power held in perfect balance. Through the command center's windows, the glow of the engines painted the asteroid belt in shades of blue and gold. The ship's true size became clear as it moved past Mars. Astronomical stations as far as Alpha Centauri recorded the gravitational waves it created, ripples in spacetime that no human vessel had ever produced before. Earth's memory was more than a warship. It was a testament to human determination and ingenuity. Su-Min remembered her first day on the project, 20 years ago. She had been fresh out of the Space Engineering Academy when they brought her to the secret facility inside Ceres. How did we hide something this big? Newer crew members would ask her. She would smile, thinking of the countless engineers who had worked in secret, generation after generation. In the ship's living quarters, families of the crew settled into their new homes. Children pressed their faces against viewport windows, watching as their former hiding place grew smaller behind them. The vessel housed entire communities: scientists, engineers, teachers, and support staff. They had trained for years in secret for this journey. Across known space, alien civilizations detected the massive object moving out of the Sol system. Their sensors struggled to understand what they were seeing. The humans they knew were builders of small colonies and trading posts. This vessel defied everything they thought they knew about Earth's technological capabilities. "We're receiving thousands of diplomatic requests," the communications officer announced. "The Centaurian Alliance, the Proxima Council, even the Radiant Empire is attempting to contact us." Su-Min watched as the message lights blinked across her console, each one ignored. The ship's engines powered up to full capacity. The antimatter core pulsed with energy, sending waves of power through systems that had only ever been tested in simulations. Su-Min's team had spent years preparing for this moment, but theory and practice were different things. "Core temperature optimal," she reported. All systems responding within expected parameters. Around her, the engineering team monitored their stations with intense focus. The slightest miscalculation could have devastating consequences when dealing with antimatter technology. Earth's memory moved with surprising grace for something of its size. The outer hull, disguised for so long as natural asteroid surface, now shifted to reveal layers of advanced armor plating. Weapon systems that had been carefully hidden began to emerge, each one representing a leap forward in human military technology. In observatories across allied and neutral worlds, astronomers watched with growing concern. The gravitational effect of the ship's passage was unlike anything they had recorded before. Smaller vessels adjusted their courses to stay clear of its path, their captains unwilling to risk even coming close to this unknown human weapon. The Radiant Empire's response was particularly frantic. Their long-range sensors confirmed what their military advisors had deemed impossible. The humans had constructed a weapon platform larger than any in known space. Their previous dismissal of humanity as a minor species was proving to be a catastrophic error in judgment. Inside the command center, Su-Min monitored the ship's course toward Radiant space. Each light year they traveled revealed new aspects of the vessel's capabilities. Systems that had been theoretical were proving their worth, exceeding even their designers' expectations. Navigation confirms we're on optimal course, she noted, checking the quantum positioning system. The ship's AI calculated and adjusted their trajectory constantly, accounting for the gravitational effects they created. It was like watching a dancer move through space, each motion precise and purposeful. The crew settled into their routines as Earth's memory continued its journey. In the educational sectors, teachers held classes, ensuring the children on board understood the importance of their mission. In the hydroponics gardens, farmers tended crops that would feed the ship's population. Life continued, even as they moved toward what might become the most significant conflict in human history. Su Min took a moment to visit the memorial hall during her break. Young Mi's name had been added to the wall, the letters still sharp and new compared to the other names. Standing there, the chief engineer understood why every system, every weapon, every piece of technology on this ship had to work perfectly. They weren't just carrying weapons and crew. They were carrying humanity's message to the stars. As Earth's memory entered its first faster-than-light jump, the antimatter core pulsed with brilliant energy. Su Min watched the readings carefully, pride mixing with determination. The ship her ancestors had helped build was more than a marvel of engineering. It was humanity's promise to all its children. Never again would they be seen as helpless. Never again would they stand by while their young ones were threatened. The stars streaked past the viewports as Earth's memory continued its relentless journey toward radiant space, carrying with it humanity's response to those who had underestimated them for so long. The Radian border station loomed ahead like a massive crystal formation, its defense arrays glowing with charged energy. Commander Hai-Jin Kang stood on the bridge of Earth's memory, her reflection ghosting in the reinforced viewports as she observed the alien fortification. Radian defense grid powering up, reported the sensor officer. On the main display, red dots appeared as weapon platforms came online. The Radians had built their border station to withstand the combined fleets of multiple species. Its weapons could reduce a moon to dust. Hai-Jin touched the command console, bringing up a tactical overlay. The ship's eye, which they called Guardian, displayed its analysis of the situation. Dr. Jin Woo Park had spent decades teaching Guardian every battle in human history, from ancient conflicts to modern space engagements. "They're sending a warning message," the communications officer announced. "Standard demands for identification and retreat." The Radian message scrolled across a secondary screen, its tone dismissive despite the situation. "No response needed," Hai-Jin said quietly. She watched as the Radian station's weapon platforms locked onto Earth's memory. Each platform could destroy a standard battleship. The Radians had never faced anything like this before. Guardian's synthetic voice filled the bridge, calm and measured. Analysis complete. Optimal approach calculated. Shields at maximum capacity. The AI had already mapped every weapon emplacement, every potential weakness in the station's defenses. The first shots from the Radian station streaked across space, beams of energy that could melt through planetary crusts. They struck Earth's memory shields and dissipated like raindrops on glass. The bridge crew remained steady at their stations, confidence built from years of training. "Shield stability at 99%, reported the defense officer. The Radian weapons, so feared throughout known space, couldn't even scratch their defenses. Centuries of hidden human engineering had created protection beyond anything the galaxy had seen. Hai-Jin watched as Guardian executed its plan. Earth's memory moved with impossible grace for its size, each motion calculated to demonstrate their technological superiority without causing casualties. The ship's presence alone disrupted the station's crystalline structure, sending confusion through its sensor networks. The Radiant commander's face appeared on the main screen, their crystalline features twisted with concern. "This is impossible," they declared. "No species has this level of technology. No ship can be this size." Their voice carried both fear and fascination. Guardian responded by executing a maneuver that brought Earth's memory within touching distance of the station. The move would have been suicide for any other ship. For them, it was a simple demonstration of control. Their weapon systems are trying to adjust, the tactical officer noted. Their targeting computers can't understand our shield frequencies. The Radian weapons continued to fire, each shot harmlessly absorbed by their defenses. Hai Jin thought of Young Mei as she watched the Radian station's futile efforts. The child's sacrifice had awakened this giant, and now the galaxy would understand what that meant. Earth's memory wasn't just a warship, it was humanity's statement to the stars. Guardian's next moves systematically disabled the station's outer defenses. No explosions, no destruction. Just precise applications of force that left weapon platforms drifting harmlessly in space. The AI had learned from every warrior in human history, combining their wisdom with computational power beyond measure. Station's primary power grid is fluctuating, reported engineering. Their crystal matrix can't handle the gravitational distortions we're creating. The massive station began to dim, its fearsome weapons falling silent one by one. The Radiant commander's next transmission was different. Gone was the arrogance, replaced by something closer to awe. "We request terms," they said simply. Their mighty border station, defender of their empire, had been rendered helpless without a single shot fired in anger. Hai Jin nodded to communications. "Send them Young Mei's file. Let them understand why we're here." The image of the brave child appeared on screens throughout the station, her final act of sacrifice playing out for all to see. Guardian continued its careful dance around the station, maintaining their position of dominance while ensuring no lives were lost. The AI had learned not just tactics from human history, but also mercy. They could have destroyed the station. Instead, they chose to teach. The bridge crew watched as escape pods began launching from the station. Not in panic, but in orderly evacuation. The Radians had understood the message. Humanity could have killed them all, but chose not to. That perhaps was more frightening than any show of force. All station personnel evacuated. Tactical confirmed. Their weapons are completely offline. The mighty border station hung silent in space, its crystal surfaces reflecting the light of distant stars. Hai Jin gave the order to continue their journey. As Earth's memory moved past the disabled station, she knew the news would spread quickly through radiant space. They had faced humanity's power, and for the first time, understood what they had awakened. The stars stretched ahead as they prepared for the next phase of their mission. Behind them, the border station's crew would tell others what they had witnessed, not just power, but power wielded with precision and restraint. The galaxy was learning that humanity's strength lay not in destruction, but in the choice to show mercy. Lead navigator Du Yan Choi watched streams of data flow across her tracking screens as the radiant fleet scattered in all directions. Their crystalline ships sparkled like stars as they activated their faster-than-light drives, each choosing a different escape route through the vastness of space. "They think they can hide using their stealth systems," Du Yan said softly, her fingers dancing across the quantum trace controls. Earth's memory had been designed for exactly this scenario. Their tracking system could follow the faintest ripples in space-time, like a hunter tracking footprints in fresh snow. The massive ship's engines hummed as they prepared to pursue. Du Yan had spent years practicing with the quantum trace protocol in simulations, but using it in real space was different. The calculations needed to be perfect. One small error could send them light years off course. "Radiant flagship detected heading toward the Crimson Nebula," announced the sensor officer. 3 battle groups breaking off toward neutral space. The tactical display showed dozens of escape vectors, each marked with probability calculations. Du Yan activated the quantum trace matrix. The technology was unlike anything other species had developed. It could detect the subtle tears in spacetime that faster-than-light travel created. The radiant ships might as well have been leaving glowing trails behind them. "Pursuing flagship," she commanded. Earth's memory's engines powered up, the antimatter core pulsing with controlled energy. The stars blurred as they entered faster-than-light travel, following the quantum wake of their target. In nearby systems, other species watched in amazement as their sensors detected Earth's memory's passage. The ship's size created waves in space-time that rippled across light years, interfering with the Radiant's advanced stealth systems. Ships that had been invisible for centuries suddenly appeared on every sensor screen. The Radiant flagship emerged from faster-than-light travel near a gas giant, attempting to use its storms as cover. Du Yun smiled as she tracked their movement. The quantum trace protocol didn't just follow where ships had been, it predicted where they would go. They're sending distress calls to their allies. Communications reported. No responses coming in. The display showed neutral ships actively moving away from Radiant space. No one wanted to be caught between Earth's memory and its targets. The chase continued through 3 star systems. Each time the Radiant ships tried to hide, Earth's memory found them. Their once feared stealth technology proved useless against human innovation. Du Yun's calculations kept them one step ahead, predicting each desperate maneuver. Radiant command ship attempting to access an old emergency tunnel through space, Tactical announced. These tunnels were closely guarded secrets, paths through space that only the Radians knew about, or so they thought. Du Yun had studied every known form of space travel. She understood how the tunnels worked, how they bent the fabric of space-time. Earth's memory sensors could detect the subtle distortions they created. There would be no escape through hidden paths. The Radiant fleet's formation began to break down as panic set in. Ships that had operated together for centuries now scattered in different directions, each seeking their own salvation. Their highly structured military discipline crumbled in the face of humanity's relentless pursuit. Other species watched the chase with growing interest. Trade ships adjusted their routes to avoid the area. Diplomatic channels buzzed with discussion of what this meant for the balance of power. The mighty Radiant Empire, which had dominated space for so long, was running like prey before a predator. Earth's memory moved with unstoppable purpose, its massive form cutting through space-time like a blade. Du Yun's calculations grew more precise with each jump, each course correction bringing them closer to their quarry. The quantum trace protocol was proving its worth beyond all expectations. Inside the ship, life continued normally. Children attended classes, learning about the history they were helping to make. Farmers tended their crops in the hydroponics bays. The chase that was terrifying the Radiant Empire was just another day of work for Earth's Memories crew. Du Yun took a moment to check the Memorial Hall's video feed. Young Mi's image glowed softly among the other names. The navigator thought about how this child's courage had set in motion events that were reshaping the galaxy's power structure. The quantum trace protocol lit up with new data as more Radiant ships emerged from hiding. Their stealth systems, useless against Earth's memory sensors, were being deactivated. They had realized that running was futile, that their technological advantages had been stripped away. Multiple Radiant vessels requesting permission to surrender, communications announced. The tactical display showed ships powering down their weapons, their crews choosing submission over futile resistance. Du Yun maintained their pursuit of the flagship. The Radiant leadership needed to understand that there was nowhere in the galaxy they could hide from humanity's resolve. Each light year they traveled spread this message further. The age of underestimating humans was over. The stars continued to string past as Earth's memory followed the quantum trail. Du Yun's calculations had become a dance, a perfect blend of science and intuition. The ship moved through space like a force of nature, unstoppable and inevitable, reminding the galaxy that humanity's patience should never have been mistaken for weakness. The Radiant capital world hung like a perfect crystal in space, its cities shimmering with reflected starlight. Earth's memory emerged from faster-than-light travel directly above the planet, its massive form casting a shadow across the northern continent. Captain Mike Young-song stood on the bridge, watching as the Radiant Defense Fleet moved to protect their homeworld. Their entire remaining fleet is here, Tactical reported. 5,000 ships in defensive formation. The display showed the Radiant vessels arranging themselves in their traditional crystal pattern defense grid, a formation that had defeated countless enemies over the centuries. Mike Young touched the command console, bringing up the weapons control interface. Earth's memory's main weapon drew power directly from a contained star, energy enough to reduce planets to dust. The Radians knew this. Their sensors could detect the incredible power readings. "They're sending terms of surrender," communications announced. The message scrolled across the main screen, filled with diplomatic language and promises. Mai Kyung read it quietly, thinking of young Mei and the 32 children she had saved. "Open a channel," she commanded. "All frequencies, all languages, maximum broadcast range." The communications officer's hands moved across the controls, connecting their systems to every receiver in range. What they were about to show would be seen by every species in this sector of space. The main screen lit up with archived footage from Proxima b. Not the attack, not the destruction, but something more powerful. Young me leading children to safety, singing songs to keep them calm, making sure every child was protected. The footage showed her final smile as she sealed the bunker door, choosing to save others instead of herself. "People of the Radiant Empire," Mai Kyung's voice carried across space, translated into every known language. "You see before you not just a warship, but a memorial. Every plate of our armor, every weapon in our arsenal, was built to ensure that no more children would die as Youngmei did." The Radiant fleet held position as the message continued. On their capital world, millions watched their screens as the story of one human child's courage played out before them. Many had never seen humans as anything more than primitive beings. Now they watched as an 8-year-old girl demonstrated more nobility than their entire empire. "We could destroy your world," Mai Kyung continued. "Our weapons could reduce your civilization to memory. But that would dishonor young Mi's sacrifice. She gave her life to protect children. Not just human children, but all children. We choose to follow her example." Earth's memory's weapons remained powered down as Mai Kyung spoke. The ship's presence alone was enough to make its point. They had chased the Radiant fleet across the galaxy not to destroy them, but to teach them. In the capital city below, the Radiant High Command watched in silence. Their technology, their military might, their centuries of dominance meant nothing in the face of this moment. They had dismissed the death of one human child as insignificant. Now that child's memory had brought their empire to its knees. "We demand not your destruction, but your transformation." Mai Kyung's voice carried weight beyond her words. "Your technologies, your resources, your knowledge, all of it will be dedicated to protecting the innocent. Every child, every species, will be under your protection." The broadcast continued, showing scenes from the colony. Children of different species playing together, learning from each other, growing up in peace until the Radians shattered that peace. The message was clear. This was what they had destroyed, and this was what they would now work to protect. In orbit, the Radiant fleet began powering down their weapons. One by one, their ship's crystal formations dimmed, not in surrender to superior force, but in acceptance of a greater purpose. They had witnessed humanity's power, and more importantly, humanity's choice to use that power with wisdom. "Your empire ends today," Mai Kyung declared, "but your people have a chance to build something greater." Young Mei showed us that true strength lies not in the ability to take lives, but in the courage to protect them. You will learn this lesson, and you will teach it to others. The broadcast ended with Young Mi's final image, her hand pressed against the bunker window, her smile peaceful despite knowing what was to come. In that moment, she had been the best of humanity, and now her memory would reshape the galaxy. Earth's memory maintained its position above the capital world as the Radiant High Command sent their formal acceptance of terms. Their empire, built on force and fear, would be transformed into something Young Mai would have been proud to see. Mai Kyung looked out at the stars, thinking of how a child's courage had brought them to this moment. Earth's memory had been built for war, but Young Mi's memory had turned it into an instrument of peace. The galaxy would remember not the weapon that could destroy worlds, but the wisdom that chose not to. The bridge crew stood in silence as the sun rose over the radiant capital world. Their mission had succeeded not through destruction, but through understanding. They had shown the galaxy that humanity's greatest strength was not in their weapons, but in their hearts. Below, in cities across the crystal world, children of the Radiant Empire looked up at the massive ship that had come not to end their lives, but to give them a new purpose. They would grow up learning about young Mei, understanding that true power lies in protecting others, not dominating them. The transformation began with a name. In a ceremony attended by representatives from across the galaxy, the Radiant Empire officially became the Young Mei Foundation. Their crystalline buildings, once symbols of military might, now sparkled with a different purpose as learning centers and safe havens opened their doors to children of all species. Han Bin Park stood in the great hall of what had once been the Radiant High Command Center, watching as young ones from 100 different worlds played together in the gardens below. The crystal structures that had once housed weapons now created rainbow patterns that delighted children of every species. Earth's memory remained in orbit, its presence a constant reminder of both protection and possibility. The massive ship had become more than a deterrent. It was now a symbol of hope. Young students would often look up at the night sky, pointing out the bright spot that moved among the stars, knowing they were safe under its watch. In the first year alone, the Young Mei Foundation established education centers on 50 worlds. The Radiant's advanced technology, once used for warfare, now created incredible learning environments. Holographic displays taught children about different cultures, while artificial gravity chambers let them experience life on different worlds. The Foundation's first project was a memorial garden on Proxima b, where Young Mei had lived. Children planted trees from their homeworlds, creating a living monument that would grow for centuries. Each plant represented a promise that no child would ever again have to make the choice Young Mei faced. In schools across the galaxy, teachers shared Young Mei's story. They didn't focus on her death, but on her life. How she spent her days helping younger children learn, how she sang songs during the evacuation to keep them calm, how her final act had changed the course of history. The lesson wasn't about sacrifice, but about the power of compassion. The Young Mei Protocol became the foundation of interstellar law. Every species that joined the galactic community had to sign it, pledging to protect civilian colonies and especially children. The document began with Young Mei's own words, recorded in her school journal. Every child deserves to see the stars and dream. Earth's memory continued its patrols, but its mission had changed. Instead of hunting threats, it delivered supplies to new colonies, rescued ships in distress, and transported children to education centers. The crew maintained its readiness, but their proudest moments came from helping rather than fighting. In the ship's memorial hall, Young Mei's image had company. The walls now displayed art created by children from thousands of worlds, each piece expressing what her story meant to them. Some drew her as she was, others imagined her as a member of their own species, but all captured her spirit of protecting others. The Radiant people, their warlike past behind them, discovered a new pride in their role as guardians. Their crystal ships, once feared across space, now served as mobile schools and hospitals. The same technology that had made them fearsome warriors now made them exceptional teachers and protectors. 10 years after the transformation, a group of children from the former Radiant Empire visited Proxima b. They stood in the educational center where Young Mei had helped teach, their crystalline forms catching the light just as hers had caught starlight in her final moments. They understood that their people's redemption had begun with her courage. The Young Mei Foundation expanded beyond education and protection. It became a center for cultural exchange, scientific research, and peaceful exploration. Species that had once competed for resources now worked together, understanding that their children's futures were interconnected. Earth's Memories AI contained not just military knowledge now, but the stories of millions of children who had been helped by the Foundation. Each success, each life improved, became part of its memory, teaching it new ways to protect and serve. The ship had become what Young Mei would have wanted, a force for creating rather than destroying. In quiet moments, the crew would gather in the observation deck, watching the stars and sharing stories. They talked about the changes they had seen, the former enemies who had become friends, the children who looked up to them, not with fear, but with hope. They knew that their true strength lay not in their weapons, but in their commitment to young Mi's dream of a safe galaxy for all children. The universe, vast and often dangerous, had learned an important lesson from a human child. Power could protect as well as destroy, and the greatest victory wasn't in defeating an enemy, but in transforming them into allies. Young Mi's legacy lived on, not just in memory, but in the laughter of children across the stars, in the peace between species, and in the promise that love and courage could change the galaxy.